Welcome, gathered friends, to the Chima Retrospective. I'm your host, Paleozoic Bricks, and today we're looking at set 70006, Cragger's Command Ship. It was released in the winter wave of January 2013. It came with 609 pieces and retailed for $79.99. As the ever-growing conflict for Chi continues, Cragger schemes aboard his command ship, planning the next course of action to defeat the Lions and gain control of the Chi. This set comes with a whopping 6 minifigures, 3 Crocs, 2 Lions, and a Raven. Naturally, let's start off with the titular character of this set, Cragger. He is the main villain of the first year of Chima. Cragger is the prince of the crocodile tribe. At a young age, he got a taste of Chi and was addicted ever since. In the magical world of Chima, you must hit the age of becoming to take part in the Chi. Having it at such a young age has disastrous consequences. That single moment set him on a path of conquest. He sought the ultimate power of Chi, and for that price was the end of 1,000 years of peace. The Cragger minifig itself is pretty special because it has a cape, but not just any cape. A tattered cape that fits the aesthetic of the crocodile tribe so well. This is the second overall time it was used. The first time the capes were used was in set 7097 on the King and Queen of the Troll faction. They were also used in a battle pack, which I find tends to be in a weird gray area due to their rarity, similar to LEGO clocks and other merchandise in that fashion. The weapon Cragger comes with is the Venge Dual Eyes. This blade is for those who are heirs to the throne. It symbolizes the secrets, wit, and strength the wielder needs to prepare for the daunting task of ruling the crocodile tribe. The Venge Dual Eyes is made of gold leochium, similar to that of the Royal Valius. The blades are shaped like that of crocodile teeth, said to be in honor of the first mother and father of the crocodile tribe. Cragger, being a bit of a sentimental type, finds the weapon poetic to his circumstances. Being that he lost his parents, he hopes to use it for their vengeance. King Crominus is one of the best leaders you can have. He is tough and fiercely protective. He ruled the crocodile tribe with logic and common sense. The last way he wanted to rule was with emotions. Crominus could never stand the Lions, but he always had a deep respect for them. He understood that war caused pain on both sides. Now, he wasn't a pacifist, but he was a leader that sought the best for his people, and maybe even his enemies. Yeah, so, remember what I said about Cragger's parents being deceased? And if you did already forget, do you have the memory of a goldfish? Do you need help? Well, the set paints a bit of a different picture. King Crominus is alive and kicking. If I didn't know any better, I'd assume that King Crominus was the main villain, and Cragger was just the prince who serves as more of the antagonist to Laval. Think of the relationship between Aang and Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Fire Lord Ozai is the looming threat in the background, but Zuko is the tangible villain for a good chunk of the story. Well, the reason is that the bio for Cragger's weapon is based more on the show, while the character bio seems to be more of what the initial ideas behind each character was, before the TV show changed it or even held off till the reveal. The bios from LEGO.com never mention the fact that King Crominus in the show fell into the Gorge of Eternal Depth. It made the toys in the show feel like almost two distinct continuities. An example is G1 Transformers and how the cartoon could have major differences in design from the toys. From size to the face to even the body shape. I find it to be a strange but necessary contrast. It's nothing compared to how the Ninjago character Kai has scars on his face on the minifig, but not in the early seasons of the show, or even the original Bionicle trilogy with designs vaguely similar to the toys. I take weird box art and inaccurate bios to the show over not getting a King Crominus figure any day, like a certain other crocodile royal family member. In this set, King Crominus uses the Royal Hakrax. It's the weapon of the ruler of the crocodile tribe. The royal red crystal is powerful, and only 2 are known to exist, or have even been found in Chima. The other is found on the royal blade, the Grandiose. The gem is very good at light refraction. One could easily use it to blind their opponent. Luckily, Crominus understands the concept of fighting with honor, so it's not a battle tactic he would ever use. As much as they want you to believe that Crominus and Cragger are the masterminds, they are not. The real villain in this story is Crueler. When hatching, she knocked out Cragger, causing his egg to fall. Queen Crunket and King Crominus thought they had lost their child, but never realized that Crueler had hatched first. The firstborn is always heir to the throne. Believing herself to be the rightful heir to the crocodile tribe, she seeks power. But she is fine with Cragger being the figurehead of the tribe, as she believes to have all the real power. With her parents gone, she made Cragger into a puppet. This was her way of getting what she believed was rightfully deserved. Crueler is a set-exclusive minifigure, and the first of a trend we will see, which is female characters being the set exclusives. Almost every wave has a set that does this, and for Crueler in particular, there is another set she could have been in too. Crueler doesn't come with any accessories, but she really could have come with one very important item: the Persuader plant that she is seen using throughout the first season of the show to control Cragger. At one point in time she may have came with a cape based on this piece of concept art. Honestly, I'm glad she doesn't have it in the final design. It allows her to fall a little more into the background and play the manipulator role. The cape makes her look like an over-the-top villainess. The next character is the Grandmaster of the Ravens, Razam. Just like your other standard Raven, he's not above petty thievery. Did you know the sky is blue? Razam has the only true Raven artifact, the Slasher Sket. It's the only weapon to always belong in the Raven tribe. It's said to bring good fortune to its bearer on scavenger expeditions. The artifact is said to speak the wisdom of the ancient ravens from its beak-shaped spike. Naturally, of course, it tells Razam he's the coolest guy ever, because of course it does. The next tribe we have up are the Lions. We get the standard array that are typically seen in crocodile sets. First up is Leonidas, the same Leonidas we have seen in other sets. His only accessory is the Chi Crystal. The final fig of this set is Lennox. He's sporting a harness, versus the last time we saw him in this conflict. Lennox comes with the Sonic Rorox, a more recent weapon developed by the Lion tribe. The development of the weapon was helped out by the Eagles with their technological skills. The Sonic Rorox creates a condensed wave of chi to immobilize the user's target. The side effect this Sonic Pulse has is that it can roast sliced vegetables to a crisp, making for a tasty meal. The description of this set on LEGO.com had a notable error. It calls for Longtooth instead of Lennox. While there are only 6 characters in this set, that might have not always been the case. At one point in production, the character of Plovar was going to be an actual piece. We have this concept art of what a Plovar piece could have looked like. This was a very early design for Plovar, sporting brown feathers instead of the blue we see in the final show. This most likely confirms the idea that he was planned for the toy line first before being written into the show, compared to the other show-exclusive tribes. The concept for a small bird piece would not be thrown out entirely. In 2019, a bird would reuse the concept for Plovar to become the standard bird we see today. If there was no influence from the Plovar piece in the design of the modern bird, then elements might be from the owl piece given how the bottom has an anti-stud. If the Plovar piece ever went into production, chances are it would have been in this set, seeing how he was the dental cleaner for Cragger and the rest of the royal family. I can see why a Plovar piece was scrapped. In all reality, the piece could have only really been in 2, maybe 3 sets in the first year of Chima. After that, it's just squeezing Plovar into sets he wouldn't need to be in to justify the mold. A perfect example is how the Baby Ryu mold is being used in Ninjago. In the first year of Dragon's Rising, they added him seeing how he is a main character, or at least a mascot. Then come the second year, and they still need to get their use out of the mold, so they put him in Aaron's Dune buggy car. While also in the same year having an older version as a full set that's also significantly cheaper. On one hand, it's great for more people to be getting another shot at the mold. On the other hand, it just feels like a forced reuse. But clearly the former outweighs the latter, even if the set is ridiculously expensive and there are better options to get the piece. But at least the mold is being seen in more color variations, with another version seen in Lloyd's Forest Dragon in the 2025 January wave. I believe we would have seen a few variations of it. I can easily see it being used in themes like City with the jungle and wildlife rescue sublines. I think the Bluebird brick is a good stand-in for Plovar. Chances are we'll never get the piece unless some designer adds it to a LEGO City set about safari or jungle animals. In the same batch of concept art the crueler image came from is a picture of Cragger with an early version of Plovar. This version seems to be a bit more generic and cartoony. This version was also featured in an early teaser trailer for the theme. Truthfully, it works better in 2D than in 3D, especially since the 3D model lacks texture that makes it feel a part of the world Cragger is in. I think it's safe to assume that this was the earliest version. You can see how they gradually tried to make Plovar more realistic to the world of Chima, definitely coming off as a bird you would see in a savanna rather than looking outside. This is the first set we'll be talking about to include a brick separator. Commonplace for today, this was still a fairly new concept back in 2013, only seen in the previous year's sets. Before the year of 2012, LEGO sold the original brick separator either separately or in select sets. They tended to be mostly freestyle or Mindstorm sets, the stuff that needed to be constantly taken apart. In 2012, it got a redesign, now sporting an axle and a smaller grip. For the most part, they come in sets from around the $50 to $60 price range and onwards. To me, this seems to be included in the case of mistakes that the builder may have made and other necessities in a more complex and ever-growing building ecosystem. While the old design had a very vintage, clunky design, this one is more sleek and slender, a more compact and useful design to be used in more sets going forward. It fits perfectly on a brick where it can be used to straighten out misaligned tiles and plates. Saving the best part for last, it makes putting on stickers super easy. We all really could have used this during the Exoforce era of sets. Maybe then the aftermarket wouldn't be filled with cat hair. It just blows the old one out of the water in most regards. But I will say the old one I think feels better at taking apart bricks. It has a great feeling grip in comparison to the modern one. I love how the old one has a place to put your thumb. It just feels so right in your hand. It just happens to be that the modern one is more useful. The old one is a really good one-trick pony, where it does that one trick really well, while the modern one is more of a bard or a red mage, where you think it'll be a jack of all trades, master of none, but it just kind of is the master of all. Moving on to the set itself, we have these two Lion jet bikes. They are some of the simplest builds in the entire theme. They are similar to Krug's Swamp Jet, but even a bit smaller. Easily the most simplistic of all the Year 1 builds. I think what makes them interesting is the fact that we get two of them. Helps build out the very limited Lion fleet. There really isn't that much to say about these two vehicles. They're arguably much simpler than any of the Polybag sets. So in the final set, the Lions have very tiny jet bike builds. But it seems like this wasn't always the case. During the design process, they originally had a boat. In the first prototype, the designers were still trying to get a feel of the Lion tribe. The driver would sit in the back of the main area. Overall, it doesn't work with the head shape being very elongated. Most notably, this had the prototype style for the wing feather pieces, so this was early on in the design process for Chima in general. Even the boat used as a base is seen in non-production colors, this time being seen in dark tan. Well, at least it looks dark tan comparing it with olive green and regular tan. If this was in the final set, it would have been the first and only use of the color of bright orange for the large rubber boat piece. Recreating any of the prototype builds is difficult with that factored in. The second variation is a more finalized version of the design. If it wasn't cut, I have no doubts that this was the version that would have seen production in the final set. The driver sits in a similar area, but due to the lion head being more prominent in the front, it just looks better. The more I stare at the photo, it looks like it was built in regular orange. But if you wanted to create one that would have seen actual production, it's still impossible. Despite this, though it was cut from the toy lineup, the second design still made it into the show itself. We even have the concept designs from the show from Marcus Hugveld. Sad to see it not in the toy lineup, because Marcus put a lot of effort into the show rendition. The best example is that we have concept art of it without animal ornaments. I think it's safe to say the boat was cut late into production. Most likely a cost-cutting measure to have the command ship meet its budget for its price point. I find it very disappointing that this build never got an official release. If the large rubber boat piece ever gets released in bright orange, it's a necessary build for any Chima collection, especially if you have this set. Cragger's command ship is the flagship of the first wave of Legends of Chima. Literally. Starting at the bow of the ship, it's fairly obvious what animal this is supposed to be. Of course, it's a crocodile laying low to snatch its prey. It just makes the set all the better for it. It's able to get its amazing shape thanks to part 62791C0, boat hull with side bulges. The designer Mark Stafford was able to use the point of the hull as the base for the crocodile jaw. The most important part for any crocodile set, and it easily has the absolute best jaw in any Chima set. It has a great range to it. Thanks to the ratcheted hinge pieces, it's able to keep a ferocious pose. You can use it for capturing other animals or stolen chi. As a kid, I used the back lower throat area as weapon storage. The part usage is also amazing. Part 50943 is a new recolor in olive green, where it's being used as the nostrils, but it can still be seen as the engines. This isn't the last time this trick will be used in the theme. What can I say, Mark really liked that piece. Like all the other parts in olive green, most of them should be fairly new for 2013 in that color. Just like the Claw Ripper, this was another great set for recolors. Getting back to the boat hull, it's one large singular piece. Fear not for the return of juniorization from the 90s. This piece has a reason it's so big, and that reason is it can float on water. Yes, that's correct. This set's main feature is that it floats on water. Mark Stafford designed this set with the express intent to have the box say it floats on water. While it never made it to the box, this was the driving factor behind that decision. Most boat hulls tend to be made in LEGO City sets. Getting it outside of the range in an action-adventure theme is quite the treat. But with a piece that large, you may expect the price-to-part ratio to be horrible. Luckily, this is an in-house theme from 2013, so it seems to be worth about $20, seeing how the set has 609 pieces and retailed for $80. Compared to 90s juniorized sets, this has a reason the part is so big. It needs to be that big so it can float on water. That's one of the set's biggest selling points. Sets like this are about finding the balance between juniorization and function. If it serves a function, do it. If not, maybe make it out of smaller bricks or so. Moving further back, it has two cockpits that also function as the crocodile's eyes. They bulge out from the top. Using the trans-red color, that makes a pretty intimidating look. It's not the most realistic look, but it works very well for this set. The boat needs some place for the drivers to sit, and the eyes are a perfect place. Moving to the sides, there are two structures coming off the boat that function as legs. Obviously, this thing does not walk, but they give the illusion of the shape. It even has claws helping out the intimidation factor. But that's not all they do. Smaller watercraft can come off the command ship, and this allows for a croc stealth attack. The mini boats are a great play feature with this set. Even at their small size, they still resemble crocodiles, with the rocky wedge brick and the guns on the sides acting as eyes. That's one thing I love about Chima, is how even when the vehicle is more grounded to our reality, there is something that makes it primal, whether it be claws, teeth, or eyes. Seeing how these boats are made for a swamp, they're airboats with the propellers on top instead of under the waterline. It's explicitly designed for shallow bodies of water. I like how it was really designed to fit in the environment. It really adds a lot to the world building of Chima. This set, I would argue, feels the most space-like out of the first wave, with its detachable vehicles. Otherwise, the design language itself does not feel very space-like in the slightest. But to me, being space-adjacent just means having features that those classic sets might have had, like the modularity and detachable vehicles. This is only the first of many when it comes to that feature. This also isn't even the last time we'll see it in this set. Moving to the middle section of the boat, there's nothing to talk about on the set itself, but the TV show model, there is a lot to talk about. In the show, this set is more of a troop carrier, able to carry a decent amount of minifigs. I also love the cockpit of the boat in the show. It feels very steamboat-esque, which makes sense for the theming of the crocodile tribe. On the actual set, I use it as the spot for the crocodile royal family. Seems like the best place for them to be barking? Growling commands? Yeah, that sounds right. Finally, moving back, there is a peculiar build. There's a spot for a gunner, a pilot, propellers, and the most important detail of this croc, the tail. It should be no surprise that this build is another vehicle. Rotate the propeller engines up, then take out the helicopter. This is the aerial unit of the Crocs. Even this build has eyes on the side, and sword pieces mimicking the jaws of this ferocious beast. The parts that connect to the engines also have flick-fire missiles. It's an easy way to get rid of the hole on the side of the build. The turret can rotate, giving the gunner a clear line of sight on all who oppose crocodile dominance. The tail build uses part 3640 and part 3639. Due to age, the parts have become a bit stiff in comparison to how they tend to be out of the box. This does help with posing the pieces. It's a pretty fun model. It makes this set feel very versatile in the face of battle. The lions won't know what hit them. Under the helicopter is the chi reactor of this set, and it's one of my favorites of the entire theme. I love the use of the silver 1x1 round tile. It really feels like it's hooked up to a reactor versus later vehicles. The vents also add a lot of detail too. Overall, it's a very simple build, but it's just so effective in what it does. Also under the helicopter is some more weapons, and even a wrench for the Crocs to make repairs whenever the command ship needs it. I feel the best way to describe it is it feels very 90s in its building techniques. If built today, I can almost guarantee it would have used part 18674, or maybe even the square version of the part. These really were the waning years of an era. The builds are not as simplistic as the 90s, but not too cluttered by small bricks and details of the modern era. I think it's the perfect balance of number of parts to achieve a build. The last thing of note when talking about this set is the prototype. Compared to Ares Eagle Interceptor, we don't have many prototypes, but one is all we need to look at anyway. The photo of the prototype seems to be in the mid-stage of the development process. For the most part, it's fully formed, but there are details that key us into its unfinished status. First of note is the lack of red on this set. Yes, there is red on the back of the set, but from the front it feels very uncanny without it. The prototype shows the red breaks up the color scheme perfectly. In place of those stickers that add so much detail, this model is covered in bullet holes. The stickers come from either set 7705, Gate Assault, or 7709, Sentai Fortress from the Exoforce theme. It is indeed very much apparent that Mark Stafford designed this set. The model also uses Mandalorian symbol stickers from set 8097, Slave 1 3rd edition from 2010. Notably, that set only comes with one of that sticker, and this model has at least 3, most likely 4. I find this particularly fascinating because it means that LEGO either had a ton of that sticker sheet already printed, or they custom printed these stickers for the prototype. Most of what would become trans red is in the color of trans neon green. This might sound like blasphemy coming from me, seeing how trans neon green is my favorite LEGO color, but I love the change to trans red. I think it comes down to basic color theory. Red and green are complementary colors. It's a no-brainer for that to be the Croc's color scheme. To me, the trans neon green just sticks out like a sore thumb, with the more muted and muddy color scheme of the build. The red of the final model gives off a more tribal feeling, almost like the command ship is a crocodile and is part of the tribe itself. My absolute favorite part of the build is the smokestack in between the eyes. It's an extremely simple build, but it just works so well. The use of the barrel piece just feels like a modern building technique, something I feel wasn't done too often versus the building philosophy of today, where every strange piece needs to be used outside of the box. The smokestack is on the retail model, but it's barely noticeable. It's just a singular Technic pin connector. But this change does sleek out the command ship, giving it a cleaner silhouette, while still retaining the concept. It makes it more stealthy for a ship in a swamp. Making it smaller also gives the effect of it creating less pollutants too. The final section of the prototype model is the helicopter. While retaining the same silhouette, it's fairly different. The biggest thing of note is the lack of a real gunner area. It does exist, but it seems the guns are not there yet. Or those antennae are the guns. It clearly needs the most refining before final production. Last, but certainly not least, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. Or would it be Deinosuchus? In this photo, we get a good look at the prototype minifigures. They use molded headpieces. They have a similar hunchback to both Leatherhead from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012 theme, and Killer Croc from the LEGO Batman movie. They also have tails. This is in stark contrast to the actual minifigs that lack the body part. Again, in contrast to the show where only the male members of the royal family had it. In an interview with Chima Channel, Tommy explained why on the toy side of production, the tails got scrapped.
Yeah, I mean that's another example, right, where we really wanted tails on the crocodile, but that turned just out to be impractical. Then they couldn't sit down in the vehicles, but we had already developed it for the TV show, so we sort of decided, okay, the royal family can have tails.
Yes.
It's like, is there any particular reason for it? Not really, but it makes it a little more unique. Yeah, not everything is fully thought out. It's about getting as far as you sort of feel comfortable with, and now it's fun and unique, and you can sort of see that there can be some sort of reasoning behind why. Well, it's because they're the royals, they have tails. Okay, why? I don't know now, but but at least it groups them and makes them something special.
In a preliminary video, we got a better look at them. This shows at one point in time the Crocs were in sand green for their skin tone. One of them has a mutated arm with giant claws. This Croc can also be seen in the mini boat in the prototype photo. In this video, they also have prototype weapons. They seem to be very early on in the design process. The only thing retained in the final piece is the use of bar connections. A lot of the parts seen in this section of the video seem to be hand-painted, from the weapons to the heads. To me, it seems these are some of the first prototypes made after leaving the concept art phase. Compared to some of the other tribes, the Crocs seem to be one of the few tribes to have concept art based on this stage in development. This snippet only featuring prototypes of the lions, eagles, gorillas, and crocs also seems to imply these 4 tribes were guaranteed for the first year, with the other 2 tribes still needing to be decided upon. This makes decisions made in the second year a bit more clear as to why the ravens and wolves got the scraps, versus the gorillas and their relatively late arrival. Before we move away from this preliminary video, it seems LEGO is still pulling ideas from this prototype well. The eagle prototype minifigure head bears a striking resemblance to the Arakocra Ranger head as seen in the Dungeons & Dragons CMF. Going back to the evolution of the crocodile minifigs, I think the real question that needs to be asked is, why did LEGO switch from a hunchback look to a more upright stance? I think it was due to the crocodiles going forward to be such a massive tribe seen throughout the rest of the theme, arguably pushing the eagles out of second billing with their importance in the second year and beyond. Having a more humanoid appearance would make people connect and even sympathize with Cragger and the rest of the croc tribe, especially with how the TV show and the rest of the theme plays out. Looking at the concept art, it seems that LEGO learned their lesson and came up with the finalized design pretty quickly, along with the eagles and ravens. The mammalian races needed a bit more time in the oven. The design change speculation is based on how Boneheads of Voodoo Island evolved into the Bionicle we know today. If kids can't form a connection with what's being sold, well, what's the point? I look at it this way. If no kid cried at the 1986 Transformers movie, that means they wouldn't have had a connection with the characters. The same applies to both Chima and even Bionicle. I look at the prototypes and just see mooks to be beaten up. Honestly, similar to Atlantis Sea Creature minifigs. While those figs are cool, I don't have a strong emotional connection to them versus the humans also found in the same theme. I think the same applies to the crocodile prototypes. Making them more humanoid was the best thing to possibly happen. Cragger's command ship is my absolute favorite set of the first wave. For an action-adventure theme, I feel we don't really get sets like this. Yes, Ninjago did have a boat with the Destiny's Bounty, but whereas that was a skyship, this is a boat that floats on water. The theming of the ship just comes together so perfectly. Of course the crocodile tribe would have a boat that's just a giant crocodile. Even if the piece count is taken up by the big boat piece, that doesn't mean it's not being used to its full extent. This set comes with a total of 6 vehicles and 4 of them are modular. The play value of this set is beyond exemplary. The minifigure selection is also spectacular too, especially with the exclusive Crueler Fig. She's the all-around main villain of the year. I really can't stress enough how great of a set this is. I do think Eris Eagle Interceptor is a better introduction to the theme, but this is just my favorite of the initial sets. I'm Paleozoic Bricks, and unleash the power.